Rest now. You have carried so much today without even noticing the weight of it. Set it down. Here, in this room, with the rain against the glass, there is nothing to carry and nothing to fix. If sleep comes before the story ends, let it. I won't mind, and neither will you. That is precisely what we're here for. So settle in, sink a little deeper, and let the world grow small and soft around you. In a green valley nestled among hills of whispering grass, where wildflowers bloomed like scattered jewels in every color of the rainbow, a shepherd named Elara tended her flock with gentle care. She had known these sheep since they were lambs, and now they followed her to the same meadows and streams that their mothers had grazed before them. As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow across the hills, Elara would lead them to the shelter of an ancient oak tree, where she'd spread out blankets of softest wool beneath which they'd sleep like one great quiet creature. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers and the low hum of crickets, while above, a full moon cast an ethereal light that seemed to seep into Elara's very bones as she watched her flock slumber. On nights when the wind whispered secrets through the grass, and fireflies twinkled like tiny lanterns among the wildflowers, Elara would sit by the oak tree, weaving a tapestry of stories for herself and her flock, of long-ago days when the gods themselves had walked among mortals, and the earth was young and full of wonder. As she spoke in hushed tones, her words were carried away on the breeze, becoming one with the rustling leaves and chirping crickets, weaving a spell of deep peace that enveloped both shepherd and flock. The sheep would stir only when their bellies were full or the wind changed, but Elara's spirit would remain vigilant, watching over them as they dreamed of verdant pastures and sparkling streams, their gentle breathing and soft bleats blending with the lullaby of crickets to create a symphony that lulled the very earth into a deeper sleep. And when at last Elara closed her own eyes, feeling the weight of her weary bones, the moonlight casting its silvery glow upon her face, she would sink slowly into the soft darkness, cradled by the rhythm of nature and surrounded by the peaceful slumber of her beloved flock, guided by the quiet stillness that only this enchanted valley could provide. In a small, secluded cottage, nestled among the whispering trees of a forgotten forest, there lived a gentle soul named Emilia, who tended the ancient, slow clock that stood in her parlor like a sentinel of time. The clock's face was worn and cracked, its hands moving with a deliberate slowness, as if each tick and tock held within it the weight of 1,000 years. 4 generations, Emilia's family had kept the clock running, oiling its intricate mechanisms and listening to its soothing heartbeat. And so Emilia would sit in the evening light, feeling the rhythm of the clock seep into her bones, calming her spirit and stilling her mind. As the sun dipped below the treetops, casting long shadows across the room, Emilia would gently wind the clock's mechanism, coaxing forth a new symphony of gentle chimes that seemed to weave a spell of peacefulness over all who heard them. The clock was said to be enchanted, imbued with the magic of the forest itself, and many believed its slow ticks held the power to heal the weary soul. Emilia knew this was true, for she had seen it in her own life, how the clock's gentle rhythm would soothe her when sorrow came, or calm her racing thoughts when anxiety took hold. And as the night wore on, with the darkness outside deepening and the stars twinkling like diamonds in the sky above, Emilia would rise to tend the fire, adding more wood to the flames until the room was bathed in a warm golden light that seemed to emanate from the clock itself. As she settled back into her chair, the ticking grew softer still, hypnotic and lulling, drawing her into a world of quiet dreams and restful sleep. And so it was that Emilia's cottage became a sanctuary for weary travelers who would stumble upon its door in search of refuge from the turmoil of their lives, only to find solace in the gentle rocking motion of the clock's slow heartbeat as it lulled them into a deep and dreamless slumber. As you too begin to relax, let Amelia's peaceful world wrap itself around you, the clock's soothing chimes weaving a spell that will carry you gently into the realm of sleep, where worries fade like morning dew and your spirit is rejuvenated by the gentle tick-tock of this enchanted timekeeper. In the heart of a vast and silent night, a lone train rumbled through the darkness, its wheels creaking softly on the tracks as it carried its precious cargo of dreams to destinations unknown. The carriage was empty now, except for one gentle soul who had claimed the upper berth for themselves, wrapping in a soft blanket that shimmered like moonlight in the dim glow of the overhead reading lamp. Outside, the world slipped by in shades of indigo and midnight blue, the only sound the lulling rumble of the engine as it breathed its way through the stillness. The train's rhythmic sway rocked the carriage from side to side, a soothing cradle that seemed to mold itself to the contours of the sleeper's body, as if sensing their deepest longings for rest and tranquility. As the hours passed, the darkness outside deepened, like a rich, velvety cloak that enveloped all in its path, yet within this carriage, time itself began to slow, becoming almost liquid and malleable, permitting the dreamer to slide into an ocean of sleep that would cradle them for the duration of their journey. The trees outside receded, the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered on black silk, and the train's gentle rocking motion became a universal heartbeat that synchronized with the sleeper's own pulsing lifeblood. As the miles slipped by, the dreamer felt their eyelids grow heavy, weighed down by an unseen force that sought to still all movement, to quiet all thought, and surrender them into the realm of the unknown. In this tranquil kingdom, worries and cares lost all significance, as the train's soft chugging lulled the sleeper deeper until the rhythm became a mere whisper, barely audible above the silence itself. And so the dreamer drifted further out to sea, on an endless tide of sleep, where they would be carried by the gentle hands of Morpheus to the shores of dreamland, where moonflowers bloomed in every color of the rainbow, and waters sang lullabies of sweet forgetfulness. Here time stood still, yet moved ever forward, carrying all dreams and one quiet sleeper into a rest so deep it would defy tomorrow's dawn. Sleep. In the heart of a snowed-in lodge, where candles flickered softly in the stillness, I found myself drawn to the warm glow of the fireside, its golden light dancing across the icy windows like a gentle spirit. Outside, the forest slumbered, its trees etched against the dark sky like delicate pen and ink drawings, their limbs swaying softly in the quiet breeze as if sharing a secret among themselves. I settled into the plush armchair beside the fire, feeling the weight of my worries slowly seep away with each crackle of the flames, as the soft hiss of steam rose from a cup of hot tea balanced on the edge of the stone hearth, its warmth embracing me like a gentle hug. The room was filled with the scent of simmering stew and roasting pine nuts, their fragrance mingling with the hint of snowflakes melting on the windowsills, creating an atmosphere so tranquil that it seemed to wrap itself around me like a soft blanket. As I sat there, the flames began to hypnotize me, their gentle dance weaving a spell of calm, drawing my gaze deeper into the heart of the fire, where shadows swirled and merged in a soothing symphony of light and darkness, until all that remained was the soft pulse of the flames themselves, beating out a lullaby of warmth and comfort, guiding me toward the threshold between wakefulness and sleep. In this peaceful sanctuary, time itself seemed to slow its pace, allowing me to surrender to the allure of slumber as if cradled in a nest of moonbeams and starlight, where the world's gentle rustle and hush became my own personal lullaby, drawing me down into the soft darkness, deeper and deeper, until all that remained was the sweet stillness of sleep itself. In the quiet heart of a city, where stone buildings slumbered beneath a soft blanket of night sky, there stood an old library that remained open all hours, its halls whispering with secrets and stories. Its walls were lined with shelves that stretched up to the ceiling like sentinels guarding ancient knowledge, their wooden surfaces worn smooth by countless hands that had touched them over the years. As the clock struck midnight, the last patrons left behind a trail of softly glowing lamps, casting a warm amber light upon the rows of books, making it seem as though the very pages themselves were radiating a gentle warmth. The air inside was heavy with the scent of old paper and leather, a comforting aroma that seemed to settle deep within the chest, calming the mind and soothing the soul. As the hours ticked by, the silence grew thicker, until it became almost palpable, a living entity that wrapped itself around the library like a soft, dark blanket. In this hushed atmosphere, a lone figure moved quietly among the shelves, her footsteps muffled by the plush carpeting as she searched for a specific title, her eyes scanning the spines of the books with a look of intent focus. Her name was Amelia, and she had spent countless nights within these walls, drawn by an unspoken magic that seemed to emanate from the very stones themselves. As she walked, the shadows cast by the lamps danced across her face, creating an illusion of movement, as though her features were being subtly rearranged by some unseen force. The books on either side of her seemed to lean in, as if sharing a secret, their titles whispering softly in her ear, drawing her deeper into the labyrinthine halls. And yet, despite the stillness and the darkness, there was a sense of gentle vitality here, a feeling that life itself was being distilled into its purest essence, a soothing balm for weary souls. As Amelia paused before a particularly ancient tome, its pages rustling softly as she opened it, her eyelids began to droop, her breathing slowing in time with the beat of the library's own heartbeat. The air seemed to grow heavier still, enfolding her in a soft silken wrap, and as she leaned forward, her head nodding gently toward the book, her thoughts began to fade into the quiet darkness like falling snowflakes, blanketing all worries and cares beneath a deep, peaceful slumber. As the room itself seemed to breathe more slowly now, exhaling its own tranquility into the night air, Emilia's chest rose and fell one final time, her body relaxing completely as she drifted away on a sea of words and silence. In the mountains, where the air is crisp and the mist hangs like a veil, there stood a small tea-house perched on a precipice overlooking a valley that stretched out like a canvas of silver and grey. The tea-house was known as Kokoro, a place where travelers would come to rest their weary heads and warm their chilled bones with cups of steaming jasmine tea. It was said that the mist itself seemed to gather around the tea-house at dusk, swirling in tendrils through the windows and doors like ethereal fingers, but within its walls all was calm and serene, a refuge from the world outside. The owner, an elderly woman named Akira, would sit cross-legged on a cushion near the fire, her eyes closed as if listening to the whispers of the mist itself, while her hands moved with slow deliberation to pour the tea into delicate cups that seemed to float in mid-air like wisps of cloud. Some said she had lived at Kokoro all her life, and some said she was only a caretaker for the true owner, a wise and benevolent spirit who dwelled deep within the mist itself. As night descended, Akira would smile and offer each guest a cup, saying, "Drink this and let your worries dissolve like morning dew." And as they sipped, their eyes would glaze over and they would fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, lulled by the soft rustling of the mist outside. It was said that on certain nights when the moon was new and the air was filled with a heavy scent of damp earth, Akira's tea could transport those who drank it to hidden worlds within the mist itself, where they would roam free among the clouds, unencumbered by cares or troubles. And yet, all anyone knew for sure was that the tea-house remained standing through seasons and storms, an enduring refuge from the world outside, a place of deep peace where even the wispiest threads of fear and anxiety were gently unwound, like loose skeins of wool, until all that was left was stillness, serenity, and the quiet comfort of being exactly as one should be. In the heart of winter, when snowflakes fell like tiny ballerinas from the gray sky, there stood a railway station, wrapped in silence and peace, its platform shrouded in a layer of soft white blanket that seemed to absorb all sounds, leaving only an eerie stillness. The trains had long since stopped running, their tracks hidden beneath a mantle of pristine snow, but the station remained, a frozen monument to times past, its wooden beams weathered to a silvery gray that glowed softly in the pale winter light. As night began to fall, a lone porter, his face creased with kindness and age, made his way along the deserted platforms, his footsteps quiet on the snow-covered rails, as he checked the ancient station clock for what felt like the 100th time that day. The clock ticked steadily, its gentle heartbeat weaving itself into the rhythm of the falling snow, creating a hypnotic cadence that seemed to draw all sounds and movement into its calm, soothing melody. And as the porter worked his way through the deserted platforms, he began to notice something strange, tiny lights flickering in the windows of the empty waiting rooms, like fireflies dancing on the periphery of sight, casting a soft, ethereal glow over the snow-covered platform. The porter's eyes widened with wonder as he realized that these were not just ordinary lights, but the lanterns of the station's ancient spirits, come to guide and protect those who still lingered in this place, their gentle pulsing light infusing the air with a soft, comforting magic. As the porter watched, entranced, the lights began to pulse more rapidly, like a lullaby sung by unseen hands, drawing all who listened into its soothing melody, wrapping them in a warm, white blanket of peace and tranquility. And as the snow continued to fall, gently, steadily, outside, within the station, time itself seemed to slow down, the clock's gentle heartbeat growing slower still until it was almost imperceptible, like a heartbeat in slumber. The air grew quiet, the only sound the soft whisper of snowflakes on the platform, as if the very earth itself were lulling all who lay within its silence into a deep and dreamless sleep. And so, one by one, the lights in the waiting rooms began to fade, their gentle pulsing slowing to nothing more than a soft, flickering glow, like embers dying in a hearth, until they too finally went out, plunging the station back into darkness. But not silence, for even as all was quiet and still, a faint humming noise could be heard, like the beat of a distant heart, growing softer with every passing moment, leading those who listened deeper and deeper into the soothing depths of sleep. In a greenhouse nestled in the heart of a lush garden, where gentle raindrops sparkled on delicate petals and soft sunlight filtered through panes of glass, a symphony of slumbering plants seemed to hum a lullaby to one another. Towering trees with leaves like emerald fans stretched towards the ceiling, their branches swaying softly in the evening breeze, while velvety blooms and shades of lavender and rose nestled in beds of moss, their scents whispering sweet dreams to all who lay nearby. A warm mist rose from the earth, carrying the whispers of ancient secrets, as a family of ferns, each one a sentinel of delicate fronds, guarded a cluster of sleeping orchids, their petals unfolding like tiny stars in the stillness. In this sanctuary of rest, where time itself seemed to slow, the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft chirping of crickets wove a spell of peace that wrapped around every plant like a soothing blanket, calming their tender shoots and drawing them deeper into repose. As night's veil descended, the greenhouse grew quiet, save for the soft creaking of wooden beams and the faint hum of an unseen heartbeat, the pulse of life itself, which whispered to each slumbering form that it was safe, it was loved, and all would be well in this tranquil world. And so, as stars began to twinkle outside through the glass roof like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, the plants settled deeper into their dreams, their gentle snores blending with the heartbeat of life to create a lullaby that wrapped around every listener, soothing them, calming them, and guiding them gently towards the realm of rest, where all worries fade away like morning dew in the warmth of sunrise. In a seaside cottage, nestled among the twisted cypress trees that grew like giants' fingers out of the rocky cliffside, a gentle breeze rustled the silver curtains as the first whispers of dusk began to settle over the waves below. Outside, in the fading light, the foghorn moaned its soft melody, a lullaby of warning and reassurance that drew the sea creatures closer to the shore, their silvery scales catching the last glints of sun on the water's surface like scattered diamonds. Within the cottage, candles flickered softly as Emma tended to her daily routine, preparing for the night ahead with quiet efficiency. She had lived in this little house all her life, watching over the sleepy fishing village below, where the boats were coming in now, their crews exchanging tales of the day's catch on the beachside. As she worked, the air thickened and the darkness outside seemed to seep into the room through every crack and crevice. But Emma moved with a gentle confidence, her hands moving in rhythmic motion as if conducting an invisible orchestra of shadows. The fog crept closer now, tendrils curling around the cottage's walls like ghostly fingers, and though it shrouded everything in its misty veil, Emma felt no sense of unease. On the contrary, she seemed to breathe more deeply, her movements slowing, as if synchronizing with the rising tide. Outside, the foghorn sang its low, mournful song once more, then fell silent, leaving an expectant hush that seemed to stretch out across the water like a great, unseen bridge. And Emma stood still now, one hand resting on the windowsill as she gazed out into the darkness, where nothing was discernible but the steady beat of her own heart. The waves outside lapped gently against the shore, their melody intertwining with the stillness within the cottage in a soothing harmony that seemed to rock the very foundations of reality. In a crooked street that wandered like a sleepy cat through the heart of the city, there stood a small candle shop with windows aglow like lanterns in the dark. The owner's name was Alara, and she tended to her wicks and waxen hearts as tenderly as any gardener tends to flowers in bloom. Every evening, as the street lamps overhead cast long shadows on the pavement, Alara would arrange her candles in the shop window like a painter arranging still life compositions, golden tapers standing sentinel beside silver votives, their gentle flames dancing in the autumn breeze that carried the whispers of passers-by. Some said that on quiet nights, when the wind stilled and the stars came out to twinkle above, you could hear Alara's candles singing a soft, wordless hymn, their sweet harmonies weaving together like the threads of a spider's web into an intricate pattern of peace and tranquility. Others claimed that if you stood very still outside the shop, listening closely to the flicker of the flames, you might just catch the faint scent of rose petals on the breeze, as if Alara had infused her candles with the essence of love itself. As night deepened, the shadows cast by the street lamps began to stretch and yawn like sleepy children, reaching for the doorframe where a wooden sign creaked gently in the darkness. Alara's Ember and Dream, emblazoned in letters as delicate as a child's handwriting. And then, as if on cue, the candles within would seem to pulse with an extra gentle light, their soft glow enveloping the street like a warm blanket on a winter's night. In this sweet, dreamy hush, it was easy to imagine that Alara's candles held not just wax and wick, but the very essence of calm itself. And as you breathed in deeply, feeling your eyelids grow heavy with sleepiness, I invite you to join me now on a journey into the realm of dreams, where Alara's gentle flames dance on forever, guiding you home to rest. In the still of the evening, when the sun's last rays had faded from the sky, the monks would climb the winding stair of the monastery bell tower, their footsteps quiet on the stone steps as they ascended to the topmost chamber where the great bronze bell hung suspended from a wooden frame. The air was heavy with the scent of old stone and incense, carried on the gentle breeze that rustled through the cypress trees in the cloister below. As the final monk reached the top, he would take his place beside the other brothers, their hands clasped together in prayer as they awaited the stroke of midnight. And at this hour, when all was still and darkness had claimed the world outside, a soft blue light began to seep through the windows, illuminating the intricate carvings that adorned the bell tower's walls like a delicate network of silver threads. It was said by some that on certain nights, when the moon was full and the stars were bright, this gentle glow would grow in intensity until it shone like a beacon across the countryside, guiding travelers home to their own hearths and beds. But I think there is more to it than that. I believe the light is not just a signal for those outside, but also a soft reminder of the peace and tranquility that lies within these stone walls, where the monks have devoted themselves to contemplation and prayer for generations past. As the night wore on and the darkness deepened, the brothers would remain in silence, lost in their own thoughts, as the light above them grew stronger, until at last it seemed to envelop all like a soft, soothing mist that settled over the hearts of each one, calming fears and doubts, washing away the worries of the world. And so I too will let my worries fade and allow the gentle peace of this sacred place to seep into me as I stand beside you here in the stillness of the bell tower, surrounded by the soft blue light that seems to hold within it all the quiet wisdom and calm of 1,000 nights gone by. As we breathe together now, feel your eyelids growing heavy and your mind growing quieter and your body relaxing into the gentle support of the stone beneath you. As the moon dips low into the horizon, casting a silver glow upon the rippling waters of the gentle river, a lone boat drifts effortlessly downstream, its wooden hull creaking softly as it glides over the calm surface. The air is filled with the sweet scent of blooming water lilies and the soft chirping of crickets, their evening song weaving in harmony with the lapping of the water against the boat's hull. On board, a figure sits peacefully at the helm, surrounded by the soft flickering light of lanterns that seem to dance upon the ripples like fireflies on a summer night. The river itself appears as a shimmering veil, its surface reflecting the stars above like a mirrored sky, and the boat glides through it with all the haste of a dream, leaving behind only the faintest whisper of its passing, as if it were a ghostly apparition, unmoored from the world of time. The figure at the helm is lost in thought, their eyes fixed upon some distant point on the horizon, where the river's path stretches out into mystery and enchantment. As they sit, the water lilies seem to bloom more thickly around them, their delicate white petals unfolding like tiny stars, and the crickets grow quieter, as if sensing that the night is about to surrender its secrets to the darkness. And so the boat drifts on, a small, fragile vessel adrift upon an endless sea of dreams, leaving behind only the gentle lapping of the water against its hull, and the soft whisper of the river's song, which seems to say, "Rest now, dear one, for you are safe in this place, where time itself flows gently by." In the heart of the desert, where dunes stretched out like endless waves, and the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered on black velvet, there stood a secret oasis, hidden from the world by its own veil of palms and papyrus reeds. The sun had set long ago, casting a deep purple hue over the sandy expanse, and now the moon was rising, its gentle light illuminating the intricate patterns etched into the rocks as it climbed higher in the sky. A soft breeze whispered through the oasis, carrying the scent of date blossoms and the distant call of an unseen owl, and in this peaceful atmosphere a young girl named Ava wandered alone, her bare feet sinking into the cool sand as she made her way deeper into the palm grove. She had been drawn here by some inexplicable force, one that guided her through the winding paths and brought her to the very heart of the oasis, where an ancient stone statue stood watch, its weathered face serene and mysterious. Ava reached out a hand to touch the statue's stone breast, feeling an unexpected calm wash over her as she did so, and in this moment, time itself seemed to slow, allowing her to see the world around her with fresh eyes, the delicate dance of fireflies lighting up the darkness, the soft hooting of the owl echoing through the night air, the infinite stars twinkling like tiny lanterns above. As she stood there, Ava felt herself becoming one with the desert itself, feeling its vastness and timelessness settle within her, until she was no longer a small, separate person, but an integral part of this timeless landscape, connected to every rock and dune and star in some deep and abiding way. And as the moon continued its steady climb through the sky, Ava's eyelids grew heavy, her breathing slowed, and her heart filled with a sense of peace that would stay with her forever until she finally surrendered to the allure of sleep, letting go into the darkness like a feather drifting on a desert breeze. In the heart of an empty plain where the sun dipped slowly into the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the grasses that sway gently in its final breath, stood a lone windmill, its sails motionless, as if waiting for the stars to stir within the velvet sky above. The wind rustled through the blades, creating a soft, soothing melody that was both calming and melancholic, like the gentle lapping of waves on a distant shore. The air was filled with the sweet scent of wildflowers that bloomed in every direction, their delicate petals shimmering in the fading light as the plain itself seemed to breathe softly into stillness. Inside the windmill, a lone figure sat hunched over a wooden desk, surrounded by dusty books and worn papers that held the secrets of the land's ancient past. The keeper, an old man named Aaron, had tended the mill for most of his life, watching the seasons ebb and flow like the rhythm of the wind itself. His eyes, red-rimmed from years of staring at the horizon, would sometimes drift towards the plain as it grew dark, where the stars began to twinkle in the sky like a scattering of diamonds on the velvet fabric of night. He'd imagined the spirits of the land stirring, ancient beings that dwelled within the earth and the wind, watching over the slumbering landscape with gentle care. And so he'd sit, his hands clasped together as if in prayer, feeling the weight of the world settle into stillness around him, until finally the night air would fill with a soft, whispery quiet, like the gentle rustle of leaves or the soft hum of crickets on a summer evening. As the darkness deepened and the windmill shadows grew long and sinuous across the plain, Aaron would rise from his chair, stretch his old bones, and make his way outside to stand beneath the stars, feeling their twinkle grow brighter within him like embers in a hearth. He'd breathe deeply of the night air, letting its scents carry him away on the wind's soft sighs, until he felt his own heart grow calm and his eyes grow heavy with sleep's sweet promise. And as I sit here now, listening to the windmill's gentle creaking, I feel Aaron's peacefulness settle over me like a shroud, carrying me on its whispery currents into a realm of dreams where the stars shine bright in every corner, guiding me ever deeper into slumber, further and further into rest. Deep within an ancient forest, Hidden from prying eyes by tangled vines and whispering leaves lay a secret hot spring, its waters warmed by the gentle touch of geothermal fingers, like the soft caress of summer breeze on a still summer night. For centuries, only the forest creatures knew of this tranquil sanctuary, where time itself seemed to slow and worries were washed away like fallen autumn leaves down a winding brook. As dusk descended upon the woods, the spring's waters began their gentle dance, shimmering with a soft luminescence that beckoned weary travelers to come and rest a while. Their path was revealed by fireflies dancing in time, like tiny ballerinas performing a choreographed waltz across the trees, their twinkling lights weaving a magical pathway through the underbrush. Following this ethereal guide, one might stumble upon the spring's rim, where soft moss and velvety grasses created a cushioned seat for weary bones to rest. As moonlight spilled into the clearing, its silvery glow illuminated the waters, now gently rippling with an otherworldly serenity, like the quiet breathing of a mother lulling her child into slumber. The trees above whispered ancient secrets in a language known only to the forest's heart, their branches swaying in gentle harmony as if performing a nocturnal symphony for the spring's solitary occupant. A wise old owl perched on a nearby branch, eyes closed, listening intently to the rhythm of the night. In this enchanted glade, time lost its meaning, and all that remained was the soothing melody of water and leaves, a symphony that seemed to whisper secrets only known to those willing to slow their own heartbeat, in tune with nature's peaceful lullaby. In the city's oldest district, where the night market had long since closed its stalls and vendors packed up their colorful wares, a soft hush settled over the deserted streets like a gentle blanket. The scent of street food still lingered in the air, sweet and savory, but it was mingled now with the fragrance of blooming jasmine that climbed the trellises of ancient houses. The moon cast long shadows across the cobbled sidewalks as I wandered through the empty stalls, my footsteps echoing off the walls. Every vendor had gone home for the night, leaving behind only their carefully arranged displays and the whisper of wind rustling the paper lanterns strung above them like a chorus of soft, ethereal voices. In one corner, a young musician's instrument lay abandoned on its stand, a lute with intricately carved mother-of-pearl tuning pegs that shone like tiny moons in the moonlight. I picked it up, feeling the weight and balance of it in my hands, and began to strum a slow, melancholy melody that seemed to match the rhythm of the city's heartbeat as it slowed and deepened with the night. The music drew out into the streets, a shimmering thread of sound that seemed to weave itself together with the whispers of the wind and the scents of the night market. As I played on, the world around me grew quieter still, until only the music remained, a gentle lullaby that wrapped itself around me like a soft, protective blanket. The stars above began to twinkle in time with my fingers as they moved over the strings, and I felt myself being drawn into their peaceful rhythm, my breath slowing, my heart growing calm. In the heart of a secluded valley, surrounded by towering mountains that whispered secrets to each other in the wind, stood an ancient observatory, its stone walls bearing witness to countless nights spent gazing up at the starry sky. For generations, astronomers had walked these halls, mapping the constellations and seeking answers to the mysteries of the universe. But now it was a place of solitude, where one lone keeper tended the great telescope with a devotion that bordered on reverence. The observatory's name was Stellaria, and its guardian was an elderly woman named Astrid, whose silver hair flowed like the starlight she loved so much. She would often sit in her favorite chair, surrounded by dusty tomes and scraps of celestial charts, watching the stars twinkle to life as night descended on the valley. Her eyes would follow the Great Bear, Ursa Major, as it climbed its slow path across the sky, the North Star shining bright at its heart like a beacon, calling out to all who sought guidance in the vast expanse of the unknown. As the night wore deeper, Astrid's thoughts would turn to the celestial harmonies that governed the universe, the gentle dance of planets, the soothing rhythm of comets, and the whispered secrets of the cosmos. She felt connected to the stars, her heartbeat synchronizing with their slow pulsations, as if she were an instrument tuning itself to the symphony of creation. The air inside Stellaria grew thick with the scent of old books and starlight, and Astrid's breathing slowed in tandem, becoming one with the gentle hum of the observatory's machinery. As the hours passed, her eyelids began to droop, and the stars above seemed to grow brighter, filling the room with a soft, ethereal glow that illuminated the path to sleep. The world outside grew quieter still, the only sound the distant hooting of an owl, like a whispered promise of rest to come. As the night deepened, Astrid's head nodded forward, her chin dipping towards her chest, and her breathing slowed even further, becoming one with the peaceful rhythm of the stars above. In this tranquil state, she let go of all worries, releasing them into the velvet darkness like falling leaves on an autumn breeze, and as her body relaxed, her spirit rose up to join the celestial choir, singing in harmony with the universe. Now it is time for you to follow Astrid's gentle pace. Let your eyelids grow heavy, your breathing slow down, and your heart fill with the peacefulness of the starry night, letting go of all worries as the soft darkness claims you, wrapping you snugly in its soothing arms, guiding you towards a rest that is as infinite as the stars above. In the heart of a forest far from bustling cities where ancient trees stood sentinel and their leaves whispered secrets to each other on the breeze, there was a secluded bathhouse with warm stone floors that seemed to absorb the chill of winter like a soft blanket. Its walls were made of rough-hewn gray granite, worn smooth in places by the gentle touch of generations of bathers, and its windows let in slivers of sunlight that danced across the water-filled basins like tiny ballerinas on stage. As night began to fall, a warm glow seeped from the stone, as if the earth itself were radiating comfort and tranquility, and the air inside grew thick with the scent of chamomile and lavender. In this peaceful sanctuary, where the only sounds were the gentle lapping of water against the edges of the pools and the soft creaking of wooden shutters, a young girl named Akira loved to come and soak her worries away in the warm waters. She would sit with eyes closed, letting the heat seep into her bones, feeling the world outside grow quieter and farther away, until all that was left was the gentle lapping of the water and the soft beat of her own heart. And as she floated there, suspended between wakefulness and sleep, it seemed to Akira that the stones themselves were humming a low, soothing melody, one that vibrated deep within her chest and seemed to be drawing her down into the depths of relaxation, like a river flowing gently towards the sea. The air grew darker outside, but inside the bathhouse all was calm and peaceful, as if time itself had slowed its pace and was moving with Akira's heartbeat, slow and steady, guiding her deeper and deeper into rest. In a moss-covered forest where ancient trees whispered secrets to each other in the gentle breeze, there stood a sacred shrine, its entrance hidden behind a curtain of ivy and ferns. The air was alive with the sweet scent of blooming wild flowers, and the soft filtering of sunlight through the leaves above cast dappled shadows on the forest floor. Inside the shrine, a tranquil pool reflected the beauty of the surrounding landscape, its surface disturbed only by the occasional visitation of a curious deer or the faint ripple caused by a wandering breeze. A solitary figure, cloaked in misty silence, tended to this place of peace, tending the moss-covered stones with gentle reverence and pouring waters from a delicate crystal pitcher into the pool's depths, creating ripples that danced across its surface like the tender touch of summer rain. The shrine itself was a symphony of soft sounds, the hooting of owls in the distance, the rustle of leaves beneath the wind's caress, and the quiet gurgling of water flowing through hidden channels within the stone walls. In this sanctuary of serenity, time stood still, and all who entered felt their worries fade like morning mist before the rising sun. And as night fell, soft lanterns made from delicate shells filled with an ethereal glow began to illuminate the surroundings, casting a mystical radiance that seemed to emanate directly from the forest itself, enveloping all in its gentle light. Now let your eyelids grow heavy like the leaves on the ancient trees, and allow the soothing rhythms of this peaceful shrine to guide you into the depths of restful slumber. As you breathe in the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers, feel your body relax, surrendering itself to the quiet tranquility that fills every corner of this enchanted sanctuary. May your dreams be gentle as a summer breeze, and may you awaken refreshed, renewed, and ready to face another day in harmony with nature's soothing melody. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the city outside was hushed and still, the clockmaker's workshop came alive with a soft golden light that spilled from the skylight above and illuminated the intricate mechanisms that lined the walls. The master clockmaker, an old man with hands as deft as a child's, moved with deliberate slowness, his eyes twinkling with a quiet intensity as he wound the springs and adjusted the delicate balance wheels of the timepieces. His apprentice, a young girl with hair as dark as the woodwork, sat at a nearby bench, her fingers tracing the patterns on a tiny watch face as she listened to the gentle ticking of the clockwork heartbeat. The air was filled with the scent of oil and leather, and the soft whisper of gears turning in harmony. Outside, the first light of dawn crept over the rooftops, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. But within the workshop, time itself seemed to slow, as if the clocks were somehow feeding back into the world, a sense of stillness, a reminder that even in the midst of movement and activity, there is always room for quiet contemplation. As the clockmaker worked on, his hands moving with a soothing rhythm, the apprentice's eyelids began to droop, her breathing slowing as she leaned forward, her face tilted up towards the warm light, her eyes fixed on some point just beyond the workshop's edge. And then slowly, all of them, clocks, watchmaker, apprentice, even the gentle whisper of gears turning, seemed to fade into a deep and dreamless sleep. The city outside stirred, but in the clockmaker's workshop, time itself had stilled, leaving only a profound and peaceful silence. On the surface of a still lake, where the reeds swayed softly in the breeze like 1,000 green fingers, a floating lantern festival was taking place under the starlight. The water's skin rippled ever so slightly as the delicate wooden boats, adorned with candles and flowers, drifted lazily across its expanse, each one bearing its own gentle cargo of soft music and sweet fragrance. As the night deepened, the air filled with 1,000 tiny sparks of light, the lantern's flickering flames casting an enchanting glow on the lake's calm face, creating an ethereal dance of color and shadow that seemed almost otherworldly. The soft lapping of the water against the boat's hulls accompanied the soothing melodies of traditional instruments, their sweet notes weaving together with the rustling reeds to create a hypnotic spell that wrapped around the heart, calming its beats like a gentle balm. And as the stars shone down in a brilliant tapestry above, it seemed as though the very lake itself had become alive, its depths resonating with an ancient magic, its surface adorned with this majestic festival of light and sound. The people on the boat, smiling softly to themselves, were merely guests in this enchanted world, there to bask in the tranquility that permeated every molecule of air, their souls feeding on the peace that radiated from the lake's calm face like a warm sunbeam. As the night wore on and the lights grew brighter still, the music swelled into a gentle crescendo, beckoning all who listened to surrender to its soothing rhythms, letting go of their worries and troubles with each passing moment. And so, as the last boat drifted silently across the lake's mirror-like surface, carrying with it the final wisps of melody and fragrance, it was as if the very essence of tranquility had been distilled into this one magical instant, where all was calm, all was bright, and every heart could sink into a deep and restful sleep. Sleep came like a soft dewfall on the grassy banks, each drop touching the skin with its cooling kiss, refreshing and rejuvenating the soul. As the lights faded from sight, the lake's surface regained its stillness, reflecting back the starry expanse above in perfect serenity. Now it is time to join this peaceful slumber, surrounded by the soothing rhythms of the floating lantern festival, your heart heavy with tranquility, your spirit at rest. In a small cottage nestled at the edge of a wheat field, where the sun dipped into the horizon and painted the sky with hues of rose and gold, a gentle silence reigned supreme. The thatched roof, soft as a feather bed, seemed to absorb the last rays of daylight, and the wind whispered secrets through the gaps in the eaves, a soothing melody that wove itself into the fabric of the evening air. Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the simple furnishings, and the scent of baking bread wafted from the kitchen, a comforting aroma that filled every nook and cranny. In this peaceful sanctuary, a young woman named Luna sat on the porch, her eyes fixed upon the sea of wheat, swaying softly in the breeze, as if dancing to an unheard rhythm. As the stars began their twinkling procession across the sky, a faint, ethereal light appeared at the far edge of the field, a gentle luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. It was as if the wheat, responding to some unseen signal, had begun to glow with an otherworldly radiance, casting an aura of calm and serenity over the landscape. Luna's gaze became entranced, her breath slowing to match the gentle motion of the swaying grain, as she felt herself being drawn into the peaceful reverie that surrounded her. The world, in this moment, was bathed in a soft silver light, imbued with an essence both mystical and familiar, like the warmth of a summer breeze on a childhood afternoon. As the light deepened and spread, Luna's eyelids began to droop, her thoughts growing languid and disconnected, her breathing synchronized with the gentle rustle of the wheat. The world outside receded, and all that remained was the soothing whisper of the wind, the soft crackle of the fire, and the slow, lulling sway of the grain, a symphony designed to gently guide her into the realm of dreams. In a small harbor where the boats slept side by side, their gentle rocking lulls was like a soothing melody that wrapped around every listener, calming their very soul. The sun had set long ago, leaving behind only a hint of its warmth, and now the stars were twinkling to life in the vast expanse above, casting an ethereal glow over the harbor. The water, once a deep turquoise during the day, had transformed into a gentle blue, almost indigo, with shades of purple dancing across it like wispy brushstrokes on a canvas. As night descended, a subtle mist began to creep in, weaving its way between the masts and rigging of the sleeping boats, leaving behind an otherworldly quiet that hung heavy over the harbor. It was as if time itself had slowed down, allowing each moment to unfold like a delicate petal opening to greet the gentle caress of the night air. In this serene atmosphere, where only the occasional hooting of owls or chirping of crickets broke the stillness, it's easy to imagine that the boats themselves were not just mere vessels, but guardians of dreams, their sails gently billowing in the breeze as they keep watch over the harbor, watching over all who sleep within its tranquil walls. As you breathe in the soft scent of salt water and the subtle hint of seaweed carried on the evening air, let your eyelids grow heavy, your thoughts begin to drift like sea foam on the waves, and your heart fills with a deep sense of peace. Feel the gentle rocking motion of the harbor lulling you into a state of relaxation, as the stars above twinkle in rhythm with the beat of your own slumbering heartbeat. Let yourself sink deeper into this peaceful haven where every care is left behind and the world slows down to match the soothing ebb and flow of the tides. As you drift off to sleep, remember that just like the boats in the harbor, you are safe, secure, and cradled by the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. May your rest be as peaceful as a summer's day, your dreams as vivid as the colors dancing across the night sky, and your waking hours filled with joy and tranquility, like the sweet songs of the harbor's lullaby. In the dusty attic of an old house, where shadows danced across faded trunks and forgotten chests, a small wooden sailboat bobbed gently on its moorings, surrounded by the relics of childhood's past. Dust motes swirled around it, like tiny ballerinas performing a silent waltz, as the faint scent of linseed oil and aged wood drifted through the air, carrying whispers of long-forgotten laughter. On a nearby shelf, a porcelain doll with glassy blue eyes sat serenely, her golden locks braided and tied back with an intricate knot, her delicate fingers curled around the hem of a faded dress that had once been worn to parties and picnics by children who were now grown and gone. In the far corner, a tin soldier stood at attention, his bright red coat faded but still proudly emblazoned with golden braid, while nearby, a music box played a soft, ethereal melody on its own, as if stirred by some hidden magic that only revealed itself in slumber's hush. As night deepened and the house grew quiet, the shadows began to stretch and merge, casting long fingers across the attic floor, and the wooden sailboat creaked softly, as if responding to some distant call that echoed through the silence like a lullaby, drawing all the forgotten toys together in a gentle dance of remembrance. The music box's final notes faded into the stillness, leaving only the soft whisper of its own heartbeat, pulsing with an almost imperceptible rhythm, guiding the dreamy, drifting dust motes back to their slumber one by one, until all was calm and quiet, and the attic lay wrapped in a peaceful silence that seemed to seep into every molecule of air, carrying the promise of restful nights ahead. As you listen now, let your eyelids grow heavy, your breathing slow and deep, like the gentle rocking of the sailboat on its moorings. Sleep is waiting for you just beyond the threshold of this quiet place. In a garden hidden behind an old stone wall, where the air is heavy with the scent of jasmine and the sound of crickets provides a constant lullaby, there blooms a flower that unfurls its petals only under the soft light of the full moon. The garden's name is Lunaria, and it has been tended by generations of gentle caretakers who whisper secrets to the flowers as they water them by hand. On nights when the moon hangs low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the garden paths, the flowers begin to stir, their petals unfolding like delicate wings as they reach for the silver light. It is a time of great magic in Lunaria, and those who wander through its tranquil aisles on these enchanted evenings may catch glimpses of moonbeams dancing among the foliage, or hear the soft hum of bees as they gather nectar from the flowers that bloom only under the moon's gentle gaze. The garden paths wind like a serpent through the heart of Lunaria, leading to hidden clearings and secret glades where the moonlight pours down in shafts of silver, illuminating petals of every color, delicate pink, pure white, and a deep, rich blue that seems almost black until it catches the moon's rays. In these quiet pools of light, the flowers seemed to glow from within, their beauty hypnotic and soothing as the gentle lapping of waves on a summer shore. As the night wears on and the moon reaches its zenith in the sky, Lunaria is bathed in a soft lunar radiance that seems almost palpable. It's as if one could reach out and touch the light itself, feeling its gentle warmth seep into their very being. And so, wrapped in this soothing tranquility, the flowers continue to bloom, filling the garden with a deep, peaceful stillness that is at once calming and uplifting. As you breathe in the sweet scent of Lunaria's moonflowers, your own eyelids grow heavy, your breath slows, and your thoughts quieten. Let go, dear one. Let yourself drift on the gentle tide of this lunar night, carried by its soothing light into a deep and restful sleep, where dreams are as soft as the petals of these enchanted blooms. Deep in the heart of the forest, where ancient trees stood tall and snowflakes gently danced around their branches, there was a small mountain cabin that seemed to be cradled by the silence of the night. The cabin's wooden beams were weathered to a soft silver, its windows reflecting the pale light of the moon like shards of glass. Inside, a fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the quiet spaces, as if beckoning the darkness outside into a gentle submission. A pair of snowshoes hung on the wall, their metal runners glinting softly in the firelight, and a small wooden clock ticked away on the mantel with a soothing, steady pulse. It was here that Amelia lived alone, surrounded by books and memories, her days spent writing and reading, her nights lost in the gentle reverie of the forest. As she settled into her favorite chair by the window, the soft silence of the night seemed to seep into her bones, lulling her deeper with each passing moment. The snowfall outside grew heavier now, its gentle whispers weaving a soothing melody that ebbed and flowed like a lullaby, calming the mind and quieting the heart. Outside, the trees creaked softly in the wind, their branches swaying to and fro as if they too were drifting off to sleep, carried on the sweet scent of pine and wood smoke. As Amelia's eyelids began to droop, her thoughts grew hazy, and she felt herself becoming one with the stillness of the cabin, its warmth and peace infusing her like a slow-moving balm. The clock ticked on, marking time in gentle increments as the world outside slipped into slumber, but Amelia's heart remained suspended between wakefulness and sleep, suspended on the soft, quiet breaths that flowed in and out with each passing moment. In the quiet chapel of St. Elunides, where the soft candlelight cast shadows on the stone floor, weary travelers would often seek refuge from their journeys. The chapel's ancient wooden beams seemed to absorb the weariness of the world outside, and its peaceful atmosphere enveloped each visitor like a gentle blanket. The air was filled with the sweet scent of sandalwood and the faint sound of dripping water, creating an eerie yet soothing melody that seemed to lull even the most restless souls into calmness. As night fell, the chapel's windows would be shrouded in a soft mist, casting the interior in a dreamy, ethereal light, as if the very fabric of reality was being gently veiled. The sound of raindrops pattering against the stained glass above created an otherworldly symphony, and the faint whisper of leaves rustling outside seemed to carry the gentle language of ancient secrets, long forgotten by mortal ears. In this sacred sanctuary, time itself appeared to slow, as if the world's haste had been left at the chapel door, and only peace, tranquility, and rest remained within. As one sat in stillness on a pew, surrounded by the whispers of centuries past, it was easy to imagine that the very presence of God's love had settled softly around them, like the quiet lapping of waves against a peaceful shore, gently rocking all troubles into calm submission. The soft creaking of wood, the soft sighs of those seeking solace, blended with the rhythmic beat of one's own heartbeat, as if in perfect harmony with the soothing cadence of the universe itself. And as the stars twinkled like diamonds through the mist-shrouded windows, it was but a gentle whisper away from surrendering to the sweet, silken threads of sleep, woven by the soft hands of Morpheus himself. As the sun dipped into the horizon, casting a warm orange glow over the landscape, the ferry's engines churned quietly beneath the surface of the water, propelling it across the wide, slow river that flowed like liquid silver through the heart of the land. The air was heavy with the scent of blooming flowers, and the soft lapping of the waves against the hull created a soothing melody that seemed to match the beating of one's own heart. On board, passengers sat in comfortable silence, some gazing out at the tranquil scene unfolding before them, while others settled into quiet reverie, lulled by the gentle rocking motion of the ferry as it glided effortlessly across the water. The riverbank receded slowly, like a misty veil lifting to reveal secrets hidden beneath its surface, and on either side, trees leaned out over the water, their leafy branches stretching towards each other like nature's own tender fingers. A soft breeze stirred, carrying the whispers of ancient stories and forgotten memories, but they remained just beyond the reach of conscious understanding, leaving only a sense of wonder and peace to settle in its wake. As the ferry rounded a bend in the river, the setting sun cast a glittering pathway of light across the water, leading the way through the quiet expanse like a gentle companion guiding one safely home. And now, as the river's edge grew distant, the stars began their slow dance above, twinkling softly to the rhythm of the ferry's engines and the ebb and flow of the tide, until all was bathed in an unearthly light that seemed almost palpable, like a soft mist that wrapped itself around every heart on board. In this serene atmosphere, as the world outside grew quieter and the river's gentle voice soothed the soul, it becomes ever so easy to let go of the day's concerns and allow one's eyelids to grow heavy, like the petals of a flower closing at dusk, and drift slowly towards the comfort of sleep, carried gently by the lulling rhythm of the ferry as it glides smoothly across the water, ever closer to the peaceful shores of slumber. In a small bookshop nestled between old stone buildings, a warm lamp cast a golden glow over the shelves stacked with leather-bound volumes and the soft sheen of new paperbacks, filling the air with the scent of aged pages and the promise of far-off lands. The owner, an elderly woman named Ilara, sat at her desk by the window, watching as the last wisps of daylight faded from the sky, painting the clouds a deep shade of amethyst. As the stars began to twinkle like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, she rose and made her way through the narrow aisles, her feet creaking on the worn floorboards, to a small table by the lamp, where a single book lay open, its pages gently swaying in the evening breeze that whispered through the shop. The title of the book was The Language of Leaves, and as Alara's fingers brushed against the page, she felt an inexplicable sense of peace settle over her, as if the words themselves were weaving a spell of calm around her. Outside, the night grew darker, but within the shop all seemed well, for in this place time itself seemed to slow, and the world beyond the windows receded, leaving only the soft rustle of pages turning, the creaking of the old wooden shelves, and the steady heartbeat of the lamp's gentle warmth. The books on the shelves stood like sentinels, watching over Alara as she sat by the table, her eyes drifting from the open page to the soft golden light that spilled across the floor, illuminating a small pool of calm in the midst of the quiet, darkening world outside, and with each passing moment, the shadows seemed to deepen, drawing all into their gentle fold, until even the stars above appeared to be shining down upon this peaceful sanctuary, guiding all who entered toward rest and repose. As Alara's eyelids grew heavy, the words on the page began to blur, and she felt herself being drawn down into the quiet depths of the book, where the language of leaves whispered secrets in a soothing voice that seemed to match the rhythm of her own heartbeat, and with each breath, the world outside grew farther away, until there was only the soft whisper of pages turning, the gentle warmth of the lamp, and the gentle lapping of the darkness against the shores of her soul. Deep in a valley where a lake lay like a sheet of glass, its surface reflecting the soft hues of twilight, there stood a village so still and quiet it seemed as though time itself had slowed within its borders. The villagers lived in harmony with the lake's gentle rhythms, their days unfolding like lotus flowers blooming on the water's edge, their nights surrendering to the soothing lapping of waves against the shore. They named their village Serenaria, after the serene song of the nightingales that dwelled among its reeds and willows, and though outsiders rarely visited, word of its tranquility spread far and wide. As dusk gathered, the villagers would gather on the shore's edge, watching as the lake's colors changed with each passing moment, from roseate pink to soft mauve, then gradually darkening into indigo's velvet cloak. And it was there, under this star-studded sky, that a figure emerged, an old man with eyes like moss-covered stones, his skin weathered to a soft silvery grey, and hair as white as the mist that veiled the lake in morning's earliest light. He walked among the villagers, offering small gifts from the lake itself, shells polished by the water's caress, or driftwood adorned with delicate barnacles that shone like tiny jewels. The villagers called him Keeper of the Ripples, for he had spent a lifetime listening to the whispers of the lake and learning its secrets, which he would share in whispered tales, passed from ear to ear through the soft stillness of night's long hush. And as his stories wove their gentle spell, the air itself seemed to grow quieter, as though even the wind had leaned in to listen. As the last rays of daylight faded from the city's steel canyons, the night train began its gentle rumble, its engines whispering a soft lullaby to the sleeping concrete below. The train's silver cars seemed to stretch on forever, their rows of seats glowing softly in the moonlight, like a constellation of stars come to life. As it chugged out of the station, the night train left behind the din and chaos of daytime, carrying with it instead the dreams and slumbering thoughts of those who'd climbed aboard. It wound its way through the city's darkening outskirts, past deserted factories and silent gardens, where streetlights cast long shadows that seemed to stretch and yawn in time with the train's steady pace. The night train's cars were filled with travelers who'd given up on daytime adventures, office workers who'd spent their lives staring at screens and now craved only the soft murmur of wheels on track, artists who'd lost their muse in the city's bright light, but found it again in the gentle darkness of night, children whose bedtime stories had grown too loud, but were now hushed into quiet by the rocking motion of the train. As the hours passed, the night train carried its passengers deeper into the countryside, where fields stretched out like dark canvas, painted with the soft brushstrokes of constellations above. The air grew cooler and scented with damp earth and new-mown grass, and the train's lights cast a gentle glow on the trees that leaned in to watch it pass, their branches swaying in time with the wheel's rhythmic beat. In this hypnotic dance between light and darkness, the night train glided through the night like a dream itself, carrying all who rode within its cars toward a destination none of them knew, a place where worries were left behind, and sleep's sweet kingdom welcomed all who sought refuge there. As the stars twinkled brighter in the black sky above, the train's engines grew softer still, their whisper now almost imperceptible, until it seemed as though they spoke directly to the hearts of its riders, saying, "Sleep tight, dear ones, the night train is here to carry you home." In a valley hidden behind a veil of whispering trees, there stood an inn that appeared only to those who had wandered far from home. its timbered facade worn smooth as driftwood by the passage of seasons and countless passing strangers. They called it the Whispering Hearth, though none knew for certain how it got that name. Some said it was a blessing whispered to travellers in their sleep, while others claimed it was a gentle warning to turn back from paths they'd already left behind. The air around the inn seemed to vibrate with an almost imperceptible hum of welcome, like the purring of a great engine winding down to silence. Those who stumbled upon its door, lost on moonless nights or drenched by rain's relentless drumbeat, would feel their footsteps slow as they approached, as if drawn by some unseen force into the inn's soft golden light. The fire burning within its hearth seemed to cast shadows that curled like smoke rings into the corners of rooms filled with creaking rocking chairs and lumpy beds made up with linens as white as freshly fallen snow. Though guests might come for shelter from storms or weariness, it was not long before they felt an inexplicable restlessness lift from their shoulders, a soothing peace that came with watching the hours tick away like falling dominoes in a game of slow and intricate patience. In this way, many had stayed on far longer than need required, weeks turning into months as seasons changed outside the windows, and when at last they roused themselves to depart, it was not from any sense of urgency, but rather because their dreams had grown as vivid as reality, and in those quiet hours just before dawn, the inn seemed to whisper softly within their ear, "Now you are free to go." In a small house on a quiet street, where the windows were always slightly ajar to let in the scent of winter's crisp air, snowflakes began to fall indoors. They danced and fluttered, gently settling on the soft furnishings, each one unique and delicate as a feather. At first, it was just a few stray flakes, but soon they drifted down in increasing numbers, softly covering the rooms like a layer of white silk. The air grew quiet, as if the very sound of silence itself had seeped into every corner of the house. A faint blue light seemed to emanate from the walls, gentle and soothing as the first whispers of dawn. The fireplace, usually cold and dark, now glowed with a soft, ethereal warmth, its flames dancing like tiny, benevolent spirits. Outside, snowflakes fell gently onto the street, each one melting almost instantly on the warm pavement. But within, they clung to every surface, weaving an intricate pattern of white and silver that seemed almost magical. As night deepened, the light from the windows grew softer still, as if it were being filtered through a layer of gossamer fabric. The room became hushed and tranquil, like a dream in which nothing is ever urgent or overwhelming. In this peaceful atmosphere, time itself began to slow, becoming fluid and malleable. Hours passed without the need for clocks or calendars, each one dissolving into the next, as effortlessly as a snowflake on warm skin. As the last remnants of days succumbed to night's gentle whisper, the house grew quiet, its secrets kept safe within walls that seemed to hum with the softest, most soothing music, the lullaby of winter itself. And now, dear listener, let this gentle stillness envelop you, guiding your breathing into a steady, soothing rhythm. As the snowflakes continue their peaceful dance outside and the room whispers softly on, as the last wisps of daylight faded from the rooftops of Willowdale, the town's gentle evening lullaby began to weave its way through the stillness, a soft serenade that only the most attentive ears could catch. The melody was an old one, passed down through generations of mothers and grandmothers who would sing it to their children as they drifted off to sleep. But somehow, on this particular evening, it seemed to have taken on a new quality, as if the very houses themselves were humming in harmony with the singer's gentle voice. As the notes floated out across the rooftops, they merged with the scent of baking bread wafting from the ovens below, and the soft chirping of crickets adding their own sweet counterpoint to the song. The streets grew quieter, as if even the trees themselves were swaying in time, their leaves rustling softly like 1,000 tiny wings beating in unison. And then, just as the final refrain was about to fade away into silence, a tiny window high up on Willow Street opened, and a small hand reached out, guiding a candle flame onto a windowsill, where it danced and swayed like a beacon, casting shadows that seemed to take on lives of their own. The light grew stronger, its gentle warmth spreading across the rooftops like a soothing balm, calming every anxious heart and lulling all who listened into a deep and peaceful slumber. As the song's final notes whispered away on the breeze, the candle's flame began to flicker more slowly, its shadows growing longer and darker until they seemed to merge with the night itself. And as the townspeople breathed in the sweet scent of sleep, their eyelids grew heavy, their breathing slowed, and their dreams became one with the gentle lullaby that still floated through the air, guiding them down into a deep and restful sleep. Now, as the last whispers of the song fade away, allow your own breathing to slow, your eyelids to grow heavy, and your mind to drift on the soft tide of the evening's peace. On a small island that drifted across the warm waters of the sea, where the sun dipped into the horizon and painted the sky with hues of rose and amber, a gentle village slumbered beneath the rustling palms. The air was alive with the sweet scent of blooming flowers and the soft lapping of waves against the shore. As twilight descended, the villagers would retire to their homes, lulled by the soothing melodies of crickets and the occasional distant song of a nightingale. Amidst this serene landscape, an ancient legend whispered through the ages spoke of a mystical tree that stood sentinel on the island's highest peak. They called it the Dream Weaver, for its leaves were said to carry the whispers of slumberers across the world, gathering their deepest desires and soothing their most troubled dreams. The villagers believed that on quiet nights like these, when the moon was full and the stars shone bright, one could hear the soft rustling of the trees' leaves as they wove a tapestry of restful dreams for all who lay beneath its branches. As the night deepened, the island itself seemed to sway gently to the rhythm of the waves, a soothing motion that calmed the mind and eased the body into a peaceful repose. The villagers' breathing slowed, their eyelids drooping in unison, as the dream weaver's soft murmurs carried them on the wings of sleep toward the shores of Morpheus, where dreams awaited like tender lotus flowers blooming in the misty dawn. And now, as you too drift on the gentle tide of slumber, may the soothing whispers of the dream weaver carry you to a place of deep rest and tranquility, where your heart is filled with peace, and your soul is at one with the quiet magic of this enchanted island. Let your breathing slow, your body relax, and your mind surrender to the lulling melody of the waves as they gently rock you into a sleep filled with sweet dreams. In a small town where time seemed to stretch like a canvas of possibilities, there lived a painter named Amelia, who specialized in capturing the essence of empty rooms. She would find herself standing in front of a vacant office or an abandoned waiting area, and her brushstrokes would dance across the walls as she brought the space to life with colors that whispered promises of what could be. Her paintings were not meant to deceive, but to evoke the quiet intimacy of solitude, where one might lose themselves in the soft whisper of dust motes dancing in sunbeams, or the gentle creak of a rocking chair as it swayed in an invisible breeze. Amelia's studio was a sanctuary of sorts, filled with the scent of turpentine and linseed oil, where she would let her thoughts meander like a slow stream on a summer afternoon. And yet, amidst all these empty rooms, there was one place that held a special allure for her, a small, forgotten wing in an old hospital that seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for the sound of footsteps to stir it back to life. The paint-splattered palette at her easel became her trusted companion as she stepped into this hidden world, where shadows took on shapes that whispered secrets only known to those who dwell in silence. As she painted, Emilia felt the weight of time dissolving, leaving behind an eerie stillness that was both calming and unsettling, like the first wisps of dawn creeping over a sleeping landscape, hinting at the promise of a new day without quite dispelling the soft mystery of night. In this world of emptiness, where nothing seemed to occupy more than a fleeting thought, Emilia found solace in the gentle dance of her brushstrokes as they wove a tapestry of what might be, a place where dreams and reality blurred like watercolors on wet paper, creating an atmosphere both hushed and vibrant. And so, as night's veil descends over this peaceful realm, and the stars twinkle like diamonds scattered across the sky, let your own heart find solace in the stillness of Emilia's empty rooms, where the soft whisper of solitude beckons you to rest. In the warm kitchen of an old cottage, the scent of fresh-baked cookies wafted through the air on a drizzly evening, mingling with the sound of raindrops pattering against the window panes like a soothing melody. A faint glow emanated from the lantern above the sink, casting a gentle light upon the face of the woman stirring the cookie dough, her movements slow and deliberate as if guided by a contented sigh. Outside, the rain continued to fall in a steady rhythm, drumming against the roof and walls of the cottage like a lullaby. The fire crackled softly in the hearth, its warm flames dancing upon the water droplets gathered on the window-sills, creating tiny shimmering jewels that reflected the lantern's gentle light. As the woman worked, her mind wandered to memories of afternoons spent helping her mother bake cookies by the fireplace, watching as they transformed from lumps of dough into golden brown treats that seemed to hold the essence of love within them. The scent of warm spices and melting chocolate mingled with the rain's rhythmic beat, transporting her back to a time when life was simple and worries few, where all that mattered was the gentle flow of moments, each one as precious and fleeting as the next. And yet, even in those carefree days, there existed an awareness of impermanence, a knowledge that every moment would eventually pass into memory, like the raindrops falling from the roof, leaving behind only faint reminders of their existence. But for now, in this warm kitchen on this drizzly evening, all was right with the world, and as the woman smiled to herself, her eyes began to grow heavy, weighed down by the comforting presence of the cookies, the fire, and the rain's soothing melody. In a green valley nestled between two gentle hills, where the air was sweet with the scent of blooming wildflowers, and the sky was a soft canvas of twilight hues, a young shepherd named Emilia sat perched atop a weathered stone wall, her eyes fixed upon her slumbering flock. The moon had risen high overhead, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape, illuminating the delicate patterns on the leaves of the trees and the subtle wisps of cloud that drifted lazily across the sky. As Emilia watched, a faint breeze rustled through the grass, causing the tall stalks to sway gently in a soothing melody that seemed to lull the very stars into silence. With each breath, the world around her grew quieter, as if nature herself was unfolding a soft blanket of tranquility to envelop all living things. The flock, sensing their guardian's presence and the peacefulness of the night, lay perfectly still, their chests rising and falling in slow, even rhythm. In this serene tableau, time itself seemed to lose its hold on Emilia, allowing her to merge with the calm surroundings and become one with the night. Her thoughts grew quiet, like ripples stilled on a pond's surface, as she breathed in the scented air, letting it carry away all worries and cares. The darkness was not something to be feared or escaped. Rather, it was a gentle companion that wrapped itself around her, offering solace and rest. And so Amelia sat, lost in this peacefulness, feeling her eyelids grow heavy as the stars above began their slow, twinkling dance across the velvet expanse of sky. The world was quiet now, except for the soft rustle of the breeze through the grass and the gentle rise and fall of her flock's breathing, a lullaby that seemed to be calling out to her very soul. Come rest with us, dear one. Let your eyes grow heavy, your heart slow its beat, and your spirit sink into the calm of this peaceful night. In a small cottage nestled among whispering trees lived an old clockmaker named Emilia, who tended a magnificent timepiece known as the Celestial Orekeeper. This ancient clock, with its delicate hands and intricate carvings of stars and moons, stood tall in her quiet parlor, its face glowing softly like a moonlit lake on a summer night. Amelia had inherited the clock from her grandfather, who in turn had received it from his own father, making it a family treasure passed down through generations. She loved the celestial hour-keeper not just for its beauty, but also for its rare gift. It ticked at a pace so gentle, so slow, that time itself seemed to unfold with deliberate slowness. The clock's chimes, like soft whispers on a winter breeze, echoed through Amelia's home, harmonizing with the hum of crickets outside and the occasional hoot of an owl in the distance. As she wound its mechanisms every evening, Amelia would gaze up at the clock's face, mesmerized by the way its hands crept forward with an almost imperceptible slowness, like autumn leaves rustling to the ground. The celestial orekeeper had been silent for years when it received a mysterious visitor, a tiny sprite, no bigger than a thumb, who settled among its gears and pulleys. This tiny being stirred within the clock's heart, breathing new life into its ancient mechanisms. As the days passed, Amelia noticed that time seemed to stretch and yawn like a contented cat, with hours and minutes unfolding at a pace so gentle it was almost meditative. People from nearby villages would visit her cottage, drawn by the strange rumor of a clock that made time itself feel slow and sweet. They'd sit in silence around Amelia's parlor, listening to the celestial orekeeper's soothing chimes, as if entranced by some mystical lullaby. The night air filled with the scent of blooming lilacs, Amelia would invite her guests to join her on the porch, where they'd watch the stars twinkle above like diamonds scattered across a velvet cloak. And when it was time for bed, she'd gently lead them back inside, whispering words of sweet dreams as the clock's soft chimes faded into the night, guiding each listener toward the threshold between wakefulness and sleep. As the train rumbled through the dark, the carriage rocked gently from side to side, its soft lulling motion synchronizing with the beat of my heart. I sat in the corner, wrapped in a warm blanket, watching the passing landscape outside the window, a blur of trees and houses all dimly lit like candles on a summer's night. The air was filled with the sweet scent of wood smoke from the previous station, mingling with the faint aroma of engine oil and damp earth. As I breathed in deeply, my eyelids grew heavy, and I felt myself becoming one with the creaking wooden seat beneath me. Outside, the world outside receded into the darkness, and the train became a moving island, suspended between two great silences. In the corner opposite, a young woman sat quietly knitting, her needles clicking out a soothing rhythm that matched the beat of my own heart. 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, a steady pulse that kept me grounded in this slow-moving world. As we glided through the night, the train's wheels humming softly on the tracks, I began to feel a sense of detachment from all that had gone before, worries, cares, troubles, like autumn leaves being shed, leaving me bare and unencumbered. The darkness outside seemed to seep into my soul, washing away the world's chaos as the train carriage rocked on, a cradle of calm in the vast, dark expanse. As I settled deeper into my seat, the rocking motion growing slower, more deliberate, I felt myself slipping into a state of weightlessness, free from gravity, yet anchored to this one small spot on the earth. In this gentle, lulling world, all seemed right with the universe. Time itself became fluid and malleable, stretching out before me like a silver river. And as the train continued its steady pace, carrying me deeper into the night, I felt my breathing grow slow, measured, in sync with the rocking carriage. 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2, 3. Let your eyelids grow heavy, feel your body relax, and rest now in this quiet, moving world. In a secluded lodge nestled deep within a winter wonderland, the fire crackled softly, casting a warm glow on the snow-covered walls that seemed to stretch up to the star-filled sky like a canvas of diamonds. The room was bathed in a gentle haze, as if the very air itself had been infused with the soft whispers of ancient trees swaying gently in the breeze outside. A lone figure, huddled in a plush armchair, sat wrapped in a soft blanket, watching the flames dance and listening to the soothing melody of snowflakes gently pattering against the windows like a lullaby from a distant world. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and wood smoke, and as the warmth seeped into the bones, all cares and worries seemed to melt away, leaving only the peace that came with being surrounded by nature's serenity. Outside, the snowdrifts rose like white giants, their peaks lost in the darkness, while inside, the firelight created a tiny bubble of tranquility where time itself seemed to slow its pace, allowing each moment to unfold like a soft-petaled flower unfolding in the gentle light. As the night wore on, the fire's warmth and the peaceful atmosphere conspired to lull even the most restless minds into a state of deep relaxation, until all that remained was the soothing rhythm of the flames, the distant hooting of an owl, and the promise of a brand new day dawning on the horizon like a radiant sunrise. As the figure in the armchair began to feel their eyelids grow heavy, their breathing slowing, they knew it was time to let go, to surrender to the peacefulness that enveloped them, and allow themselves to drift into the soft white expanse of dreamland, where snowflakes gently fell on a landscape untouched by the worries of the world. In the heart of the city, where the streets were quiet and the buildings stood tall, there was an old library that remained open all through the night. Its stone walls seemed to absorb the soft glow of street lamps, casting a gentle darkness within. Yet still the library beckoned, like a haven from the world outside. The air inside was heavy with the scent of aged books and whispered secrets, and as one wandered through the silent halls, the whispers grew louder, a gentle hum that seemed to reverberate deep within the chest. In this sacred space, time lost all meaning, clocks ceased their ticking, and hours dissolved into a timeless expanse where past and present blended in an endless dance. As the night wore on, the shadows cast by the lamps lengthened, like dark fingers reaching out to grasp the pages of forgotten tales. Yet still they seemed to whisper their own tales, secrets only revealed in the stillness of the night. Amidst this sea of silent stories, a lone figure moved, a custodian of sorts, whose footsteps echoed through the halls as she tended to the shelves with a quiet reverence, her touch awakening ancient tales from slumber. Her eyes, when closed, shone like stars in the dark, and in their depths the stories seemed to live on, whispering softly of dreams yet to be born. As the first light of dawn crept through the high windows, illuminating the library's treasures with a soft, ethereal glow, it was as if the room itself was rising, like a great lark singing its morning song, and all within felt their own spirits lift, borne on the wings of slumber. In this sacred place where stories merged with the shadows, time lost all meaning, hours dissolved into an endless expanse, and as one's eyelids grew heavy, the whispers grew softer still, until they were but a gentle lullaby, rocking gently in the cradle of dreams. In the heart of winter's chill, where snowflakes fell like feathers from the gray sky, there stood a railway station, shrouded in quiet and stillness, its wooden sign creaking softly in the gentle breeze that whispered secrets to the frost-covered tracks. The trains had long since stopped running, their schedules cancelled for weeks, perhaps even months, but the station remained, a sentinel of lost time, holding the memories of journeys past, like wisps of smoke from the abandoned steam engines. In this frozen world, a young conductor named Aki wandered the deserted platforms, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of snow that had claimed the rails as its own. She moved with purpose, though not urgency, her eyes scanning the empty station for signs of life, or perhaps just for someone to share in the beauty of this quiet morning. As she walked, the silence was broken only by the soft crunch of snow beneath her boots and the occasional distant rumble of a far-off avalanche that sent a shiver down her spine, but also seemed to carry with it the promise of new beginnings. Aki's thoughts wandered to the countless stories of love and loss, joy and sorrow that had unfolded on these very platforms over the years. Whispers in the darkness, laughter in the crowded waiting rooms, tearful goodbyes, and triumphant reunions. She closed her eyes, letting the stillness wash over her like a balm, feeling the weight of history settle upon her shoulders, and as she breathed in, the scent of snow and damp earth filled her lungs, calming her very being. And so, with each step, Aki moved further into the station's heart, where the shadows grew deeper, and the air was heavy with dreams yet to be dreamed, until at last she came to a stop in front of an old waiting room, its windows like two empty eyes gazing out onto the frozen landscape. In this place, surrounded by whispers of love and memories yet to come, Aki felt her own heart grow quiet, slowing its beat as if joining the symphony of silence that enveloped the station. As she stood there, lost in time itself, her eyelids began to droop, heavy with the tranquility that permeated every corner of this snowbound sanctuary, and gently, almost imperceptibly, Aki's breathing grew shallower, until finally, like the snow that fell all around her, she settled softly into rest, cradled by the station's ancient stones, and wrapped in a peaceful slumber from which she would awaken when the trains began to run once more. In the heart of an old garden, where stone pathways curved like gentle streams, stood a greenhouse that slumbered under a soft, ethereal mist. The plants within its glass walls were asleep, their delicate petals closed, their leaves folded inward, as if holding their breath in anticipation of the dawn. In the center of the room, a fountain bubbled softly, casting an eerie glow on the terracotta floor, and a faint scent of honeysuckle and jasmine wafted through the air, transporting all who entered to a realm of serenity. The trees outside, swaying gently in the breeze, cast dappled shadows across the glass panes, creating an ever-changing mosaic of light and darkness that danced on the walls like the quiet whispers of ancient secrets. As night deepened, the greenhouse became a sanctuary, a haven where time itself seemed to slow its pace, allowing all who dwelled within to drift into a peaceful slumber. The plants, too, began to stir, their leaves unfolding like tiny wings, releasing subtle sighs that blended with the soft hum of crickets and the rustling of leaves in the distant wind. In this enchanted space, where nature's rhythms were woven into an intricate tapestry of sound and scent, all troubles seemed to fade away, leaving only a deep sense of calm and tranquility. As the last rays of sunlight faded beyond the glass walls, the greenhouse grew darker, yet somehow brighter, filled with the gentle radiance of moonbeams filtering through the panes. The plants settled deeper into their slumber, their dreams infused with visions of lush gardens, vibrant with life, where every petal unfolded to greet the sun's warm touch. And as you rest here among these sleeping flowers, let your own worries fade like the dying light outside, letting the soothing scent of blooming petals guide you toward a deep and peaceful sleep. In a small seaside cottage, nestled between tall dunes and the quiet sea, lived an old couple named Emma and Jack. They spent their days tending to their garden, where lavender bloomed in shades of pale purple and blue, and roses with delicate petals spilled over the stone walls. In the evenings they'd sit by the fireplace, listening to the gentle hooting of a foghorn that stood like a sentinel on the rocky shore below. The foghorn's melancholy call was a lullaby to them, its low rumble soothing their souls as the darkness gathered outside. As night deepened, Emma would rise and fetch a lantern from the porch, her footsteps quiet on the creaking boards as she made her way down to the beach, where Jack waited with his guitar. Together they'd play soft melodies under the misty veil that rolled in off the sea, its tendrils curling around them like a gentle blanket. The music seemed to match the rhythm of the waves, which lapped at the shore with a slow and peaceful cadence. And as the last notes faded into the fog, Emma would say, "This is where we come home, Jack," her voice barely audible above the hooting of the foghorn. They'd walk hand in hand back up to their cottage, through the darkness that was like a soft shroud wrapping around them, and drift off to sleep as one with the peacefulness of the sea outside. In those moments they felt connected to the land and its creatures, the whales that sang beneath the surface, the seals that hauled out on the rocks to listen to the music, and even the fog itself, which seemed to have a gentle story to tell if only they could listen closely enough. As you breathe in the scent of salt water and lavender, let your eyelids grow heavy, like the petals of the roses in Emma's garden. In the heart of a town where crooked streets seemed to wander aimlessly like lost memories, there stood a small candle shop that shone with an otherworldly softness, its windows aglow with the gentle warmth of 1,000 flickering lights. The sign above the door read, "Moonlit Wicks," in letters that curved and swirled like wisps of cloud, beckoning passers-by to enter and breathe deeply of the sweet scents wafting from within. At night, when the stars were hidden behind a veil of mist, the shop seemed to pulse with an inner radiance, as if the candles themselves were imbuing the air with their gentle golden light. In this enchanting place, time lost all sense of urgency, and the world outside receded into the distance, leaving only the soothing whisper of melting wax and the soft, dreamy music of crackling flames. The shop's proprietor, a wise and gentle soul named Arya, moved through her daily routines with the quiet purpose of a priestess tending to sacred rituals, carefully crafting each candle as if it held the promise of a new dawn within its fragile form. And when darkness finally descended, casting long shadows across the cobblestone street, Arya would light one final candle, its flame dancing like a tiny star above her head, bathing the shop in an ethereal glow that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment, drawing all who beheld it into a state of peaceful reverie. As the world outside slowly stilled and grew quiet, the soft, golden light of the moonlit wicks began to whisper its gentle lullaby. "Sleep now, dear heart. Let your worries drift away on the tides of night. May your dreams be filled with visions of peace and serenity." And when you wake, may the world be fresh and new once more." And as Arya's candle burned steadily, casting a golden pool of light across her face, she smiled softly to herself, knowing that in this quiet, moonlit hour all was well and all would be peaceful. Until the dawn. In a distant land, nestled between two great mountains, stood an ancient monastery with a bell tower that pierced the sky like a shard of moonlight. For generations, monks had tended the bells, their deep tones echoing through the valley as they tolled out the passing hours and seasons, each chime a gentle reminder to live in harmony with the world. As night descended, a lone monk named Akira would climb the winding stair to the bell tower's highest platform, where he'd sit beside the great bronze bell, its surface etched with intricate symbols of peace and serenity. The air was alive with an otherworldly quiet, as if the very mountains themselves were holding their breath in reverence for the night ahead. Akira would breathe deeply, feeling the stillness seep into his soul, and begin to chant softly beneath his breath, the words weaving a spell of calm that seemed to settle upon the landscape like a fine mist. As he spoke, the stars above began to twinkle in rhythm with his voice, their light dancing across the hills as the night creatures stirred in response, a chorus of crickets and rustling leaves swelling into a soothing melody. And when Akira's chant finally faded away, leaving only silence, the bell itself would stir, its deep, sonorous tone rising like a gentle sigh, an echo of the monk's final word, Om Mani Padme Hum, as the darkness was bathed in a soft, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the mountain. In this peaceful realm, time itself grew slow and pliable, like molten wax, allowing all who listened to sink into its soothing warmth, their worries and cares dissolving like wisps of cloud as they succumbed to the enchantment of the night. And now, dear listener, it is time for you too to find your own stillness, let go of the world's din, and join Akira in the bell tower, where the silence is so profound it can be felt as a living presence, guiding you gently into the deep waters of slumber. In the gentle darkness of an evening in late summer, a riverboat drifted lazily downstream, its wooden hull creaking softly against the gentle current as it made its way past fields of golden wheat that stretched up to the banks like emerald green waves on a calm sea. The boat's wheels had been still for hours, and now the only sound was the soft lapping of the water against the hull and the distant hooting of an owl, a low, mournful cry that echoed across the water as if it too were searching for something lost. On board, the captain sat on the deck, his eyes fixed on the stars beginning to twinkle like diamonds in the dark blue sky above, while the moon rode high and full, casting a silver glow over the landscape. The night air was heavy with the scent of blooming flowers and the sweetness of ripening fruit, carried down from the trees and orchards along the banks as the boat drifted past, leaving behind only ripples on the surface of the water like wisps of smoke on a summer breeze. As the river narrowed and the shadows deepened, the captain stood up slowly and went below deck to join his crew in their quiet vigil, each one lost in their own thoughts as the darkness wrapped itself around them like a warm blanket. One by one they dozed off, lulled by the gentle rocking of the boat and the soothing rhythm of the water lapping against the hull. And as they slept, the night air grew quieter still, until all that was left was the soft creaking of the boat's wooden frame and the steady heartbeat of the river itself, pulsing through the land like a slow golden vein. In the heart of the desert, where the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse, there stood an oasis so serene that it seemed a haven from the world's din and chaos. The palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling softly against each other as they whispered secrets only known to the wind. A silver moon cast its silvery glow over the sandy dunes, illuminating a path of stones that led to a still pool of water, where lotus flowers bloomed like tiny white lanterns, reflecting the starlight with an otherworldly softness. The air was filled with the sweet scent of desert blooms, wafting on the gentle currents like a lullaby to the night creatures. As the stars wheeled above, their light danced across the sand, casting shadows that seemed to move and twist in rhythm with the beat of the palm fronds. In this tranquil scene, a young girl wandered alone, her bare feet sinking into the cool sand as she searched for something lost. Perhaps it was a fragment of moonlight or a drop of stardust, but soon found herself entranced by the stars themselves, their gentle twinkle drawing her into a dreamlike state. As she lay down on the sand, cradled by the palm trees and watched over by the celestial ballet above, time itself seemed to slow its pace, allowing the desert's hidden magic to seep into her soul like a soothing balm, calming every worry, every care, until all that remained was the soft lapping of the water against the shore and the sweet, whispered promise of eternal rest. On the endless plain, where the grasses swayed like a sea of golden silk in the breeze, stood an old windmill that had been still for many years, its wooden blades stilled and quiet as if listening to a gentle tale. The sun was setting now, casting a warm orange glow over the plain, but even as it painted the sky with hues of pink and crimson, the windmill remained motionless, its stone foundation steady and strong, like an ancient guardian. In this empty landscape, where only the occasional bird would break the silence, or a rabbit scurry across the path, the windmill stood sentinel, its purpose unclear, but its presence comforting in its quiet steadfastness. As night began to fall, and the stars appeared one by one like diamonds scattered across the velvet sky, the air grew cooler and stiller, until it was as if the very breath of life itself had been paused in anticipation of something yet to come. The windmill's wooden blades creaked softly, a gentle sigh of contentment, and for a moment, just one moment, the plain seemed to hold its own breath in harmony with the windmill's quiet exhalation, as if waiting together for some subtle shift in the balance of the world. And then, without warning, but also somehow not unexpectedly, the breeze stirred once more, gentle as a lover's caress, and the blades of the windmill began to turn, slow and measured, like the beating of a heart growing stronger with each passing moment, until it seemed that the very rhythm of life itself had awakened from its evening slumber. The plain was filled with the soothing melody of the turning blades, as if the windmill were singing a lullaby of peace and tranquility to the sleeping land. As I stand here beneath this gentle song, my eyelids growing heavy with the passing moments, I feel the weight of the world lifting from my shoulders, like autumn leaves rustling free from their winter perch. Deep within the forest, where ancient trees whispered secrets to each other in the wind, there flowed a spring of warm, crystal-clear water that seemed to hold the very essence of the earth's heartbeat. For as long as anyone could remember, the spring had been hidden from view, its location known only to those who stumbled upon it by chance or were led there by an unseen guide. The air around it was alive with the sweet scent of blooming wildflowers and the soft hum of 1,000 midges dancing in the fading light of day. As dusk fell, the trees began to lean in, their branches tangling above like a verdant canopy, filtering the moonlight into a soft, ethereal glow that imbued every rock and leaf with an otherworldly radiance. A single path wound its way down from the forest's edge, a gentle, meandering ribbon of earth that seemed to unfurl like a beckoning finger, drawing weary travelers deeper into the woods towards the soothing promise of the hot spring. As night descended, the forest grew quiet, the trees standing watchful sentinels around the pool's tranquil depths, their leaves rustling softly in the evening breeze like the gentle lapping of waves on a summer shore. The water itself seemed to whisper secrets to those who listened closely, its warmth seeping into skin and bone, calming the mind and soothing the soul, as it reminded one that even in the darkest hours there is always peace to be found, always solace waiting just beyond the edge of awareness. And so, as your eyelids grow heavy, your breath slows, and your body relaxes, let the gentle lapping of the water, the soft rustle of leaves, and the quiet heartbeat of the forest guide you down into the depths of a restful slumber where dreams will wait to greet you with their own soothing whispers. In a small town nestled between misty mountains and a gentle river, there stood a night market that seemed to unfold like a whispered secret under the light of lanterns. As the last customers departed and the vendors packed away their wares, the market's true essence began to reveal itself, a realm where shadows danced with moonlight, and the air vibrated with the soft hum of crickets and the distant lapping of water against the shore.